Diary of Saint Francis de Sales, November 24. It's not enough to say, "I wish to be saved," or "I wish to embrace the means appropriate for attaining eternal salvation," but one must want it with energetic resolution and receive the graces that God gives us, ensuring that our will corresponds to God's will. God gives us the means to be saved. We must receive them and desire our eternal salvation as God desires it, and because God desires it. Theotimus, Part 2, Chapter 3. As mentioned elsewhere in this diary, Francis de Sales's father sent him to Chambéry to qualify as a lawyer and join the Senate of Savoy. In that city, he presented brilliant exams, and on a day like today in 1592, he became a lawyer with great solemnity. Before the Senate of Chambéry, he delivered an eloquent speech expressing himself magnificently on justice, describing it as a virtue born of God, descended from heaven to be the strength of nations, the protection of the weak, a consolation for the poor, and a hope for eternal happiness for all who administer it worthily. His words amazed all, and from then on, they already wanted to see him as a senator. However, God's plans were different for his humble servant, who did not lack supernatural signs to discover them. Francis was returning to Annecy with his law degree and crossed the Sonax forest with Reverend Deage. Suddenly, his horse got stuck and fell to the ground. As he fell, Francis's sword came out of its sheath and lay exactly on it, forming a perfect cross. The peculiar phenomenon struck a thoughtful chord in Francis, but avoiding any superstition, he ignored it, remounted his horse, ensured the sword was well placed, and continued his journey. Shortly thereafter, the same thing happened. The horse slipped, and the sword again came out of the sheath, forming a cross with it. He continued, and for a third time, the same happened. At that moment, Francis thought it must be a call from heaven, inviting him to dedicate himself to the Lord, abandoning the world to follow the banner of the cross. He then spoke with his tutor, who became the first confidant of the intimate feelings of his soul. On November 24th, 1622, St. Francis de Sales devoted nearly the entire day to visiting the parishes and pious places in and around Avignon. He went to the Church of the Celestine Fathers, where the body of Blessed Peter of Luxembourg, a cardinal of the Holy Church, is venerated. He made great praises there, based on the prayer found next to the relics of the blessed. It seemed as if he did not want to leave that place. He said, "Ah, let me stay with this illustrious teacher. My family has served the House of Luxembourg for time immemorial, and for my part, I have never read a life that has moved me more than that of the young cardinal, who in a short time achieved the perfection of a long existence." Reflection of November 24th. The reflection for November 24th emphasizes the importance of a determined and active desire to achieve eternal salvation, something that goes beyond mere intentions or words. St. Francis de Sales urges us to align our will with that of God, trusting that God not only provides us with the means to be saved, but also invites us to use those means with determination and faithfulness. This reflection reminds us that we must actively commit to our spiritual path, recognizing that divine grace requires our conscious cooperation. The account of his experiences in Chambéry and the Sonax forest shows the presence of divine signs in our lives and the importance of being attentive to these calls. For Francis, the repeated events with the sword were part of an inner call toward a life dedicated to God's service, moving away from worldly expectations and embracing a deeper spiritual path. This invites us to reflect on how we respond to the signs in our lives, suggesting a divine purpose or path. challenging us to be receptive and courageous in responding to God's will. Finally, his visit to the body of Blessed Peter of Luxembourg and his devotion in Avignon reflect a deep reverence for those who have achieved holiness, inspiring others to follow in their footsteps with sincere devotion. He teaches us that in the tradition and example of the saints, we find models of virtue and dedication that can guide us on our spiritual journey, offering us comfort and direction.